Keir Starmer has warned that those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heaviest burden when it comes to the budget. Looking at the weight of the potential burdens to be announced in the upcoming budget, I have to ask, since when do pensioners have the broadest shoulders? Welcome to Grey Matters. Hello and welcome to Grey Matters, the channel that promotes the fact that the older generation still matters and has relevance, and which looks at issues that matter to the older generation. Big thank you to all our new subscribers. You've helped get us up to over 18,000 now, so that's brilliant. Thank you very much. But now on to the important things. With the autumn budget just days away, appropriately on the 30th of October during Halloween week, we thought we should take a look at some of the potential horrors that witch has in store for us and how they might affect us pensioners. Well, apparently some things have been ruled out, such as increases to national insurance, income tax and VAT, and most pundits expect the government to honour this commitment. So let's just look at those points first. Now, income tax. The pledge is not to increase tax. But even if tax rates don't increase, wages and pensions will. And the Grim Reevester, in a typical underhanded move, is considering extending the freeze on the income tax thresholds beyond the current end date of 2028. Now, this will guarantee that many people will be pushed into higher tax bands, even though the income tax remains the same, because wages and pensions will increase over time. And that's crafty, because she can claim that the government honoured the pledge not to increase taxes whilst capturing more people in the taxation net. Yeah. National insurance. Now, as for NI, although the commitment not to increase the rate might apply to employees, it probably won't apply to employers. And the feeling is that they will face some unpleasant increases in the portion of NI that they have to pay. And many are going to try and recover that from their employees. And that immediately brings us back to one of our previous videos in which we reported that it's rumoured that employer national insurance contributions could be applied to pension contributions, which currently isn't the case. Now, in turn, that could mean that NI will be levied on those who are receiving a pension but are still working. And of course, this will affect the pensioner's bottom line. Now, there are many reasons why people work on after retirement age. The most common reason is the need to maintain a comfortable standard of living and not have to rely on state handouts. And attacking their take-home pay would not only be demoralising and demotivating, it could mean that they'll have to work even harder and longer to achieve the same results. And that's really not fair at a time when they should be winding down. VAT, okay, no increase to VAT rates perhaps, but I think we can expect them to slap VAT on previously exempted categories. We've all heard about them slapping VAT on private school fees, which appears is going to have the opposite effect to that planned and put even more pressure on our state schools. But there are loads and loads of areas where they could apply VAT where it currently isn't. For example, betting and gaming, including bingo, the lottery, admission charges to museums maybe, admission charges by charities, burials and cremations, aids for blind people, prescription charges, dental and optical services. Currently they don't attract VAT, but these possibilities don't even scratch the surface of how many zero-rated and exempted categories there are that this government could attack by applying VAT, pushing our prices up and helping to fill the black hole. Yeah. As for pensions generally, well, let's look at some of the biggest changes that the rumour mill is circulating. Now, tax relief for higher earners. Some media outlets are suggesting that a reduction in pension tax relief for higher earners could be on the cards. But I understand that it's unlikely to happen due to the impact on the public sector workers. Yeah, so there's the government looking after their own once again. Mustn't upset the civil service or attack train drivers' pensions, must they? Perhaps the income generated from the proposal could have relieved some of the burden of filling that black hole that's currently being placed on the shoulders of your average pensioner. Let me remind you of Starmer's words: those with the broadest shoulders should bear the heaviest burden. Not much of that in evidence so far, is there? But the other thing they may well do are cuts to the tax-free cash pension withdrawals. As you know, if you've got a pension, there's nothing to stop you taking some money out of it if you need a lump sum for whatever reason. And it's been widely suggested that the maximum tax-free amount that people can withdraw from their pensions will be cut by 20%, or to a limit of £100,000. It's currently £268,275, I believe. Now, as a result of this rumour, there's been a huge surge of pensioners pulling their money out of their pension pots before it's taken from them. All right, taken from them? Well, yes, in effect, because their concern is that if they're prevented from accessing their own pension pots to get the cash they need, they may not live long enough to get the equivalent in their pension payments over time. But there is an issue with these unplanned withdrawals. Most people, when they go to take money out of their pension pots, it's well thought out, it's well planned, and they know what's going to happen in the future. But the risk is with this panicking is that some people could actually run out of money sooner in retirement. And many will probably just quickly put their money into savings accounts, and interest rates are not brilliant. Either way, their money is unlikely to grow as it would if it was left in their pensions. Difficult decisions ahead. Another rumour circulating is that inheritance tax will have to be paid on pensions. Now, currently, inheritance tax is charged on anything over $325,000 on your estate. It's the value of your estate. But it's not paid on pensions. But there are fears that this could change and could make for some pretty difficult retirement planning. Now, crossing the inheritance tax threshold is no longer the domain of the rich and famous. Many middle-class families are finding that, for example, the value of their parents' homes have increased vastly. A house purchased for £3,000 in the early 70s could now be worth pushing on £500,000. And if their parents hadn't taken any steps to mitigate the risk of inheritance tax, and let's face it, most won't, because they don't think it's ever going to happen to them, it won't bother them, they're never going to have enough, it's never been on their radar. But if they haven't, then the families could be in for quite a shock when it comes to disposing of the property. Well, there's more to come, and we'll be back in a few seconds' time after this short break. We'll see you then. Hello, and welcome back to this kind of Halloween budget special, looking at the horrors that the Grim Reevester is likely to have waiting for us. Yeah. Okay. We're currently looking at how the budget could impact on us pensioners, and next up is capital gains tax. Now, capital gains tax is paid on the profit of an asset when you sell it, such as shares and property. Although you get an annual capital gains tax allowance, it's been cut from £12,300 in 2020 to just £3,000 for the 24-25 tax year. Now, you exceed that measly amount, then on residential properties, for example, you're going to pay 10 or 18% capital gains tax, and higher earners will pay 20 or 24%. Now, it kind of ties in with this, I understand, but there's a thing called a carried interest loophole. Now, this loophole may be removed. It allows some private equity fund managers to get some of their income taxed under capital gains tax instead of income tax, so they pay less. Woof, sneaky. So closing this loophole could raise £565 million a year by 2028. Now that sounds like a pretty good idea. But never mind, we'll still let the pensioners' broad shoulders carry the burden, shall we? Another thing on the cards could be changes to the council tax. Now, whilst the government has said they won't increase the council tax, there are suggestions that they will cut some of the discounts. And the one that will affect most people, and the one that's been bandied about a lot already, is the suggestion that they'll get rid of the 25% single occupancy discount. Now, how grossly unfair is this? They stuff a pensioner or single mum with such a big increase, and there is, in my opinion, a real risk of harm being done, especially to pensioners who have already lost their winter fuel payment. And when pressed on this issue, Angela Rayner refused to commit to keeping it in place, which I think we can read between the lines it's going to go. The thing is, if you live on your own, you tend to use a lot less of the services. You put out less rubbish, for example. You use less water. You use a lot less of everything. There you go. Another thing that they're going to be looking at, we think, are spiralling insurance costs. Now, in its election manifesto, the government pledged to tackle the problem of soaring premiums for car insurance. Now, great idea. Unfortunately, one of the measures being considered could be seen as yet another attack on older people, especially if you only read the headlines and not the articles that go with them. The issue that is that a disproportionate number of insurance claims come from incidents involving older people, older drivers. And it would seem that the solution is to remove as many possible older drivers from our roads. So you will see such headlines as older drivers to face £85 driving test, drivers over 70 forced to take a driving test. Well, it's not actually as it seems. Those headlines are there to get you going, get you angry, and a lot of people won't read the rest, and they just tell everybody that after the budget, anyone over 70 is going to be forced to paying out money for a driving test. Well, the proposal actually is to give GPs the power to require drivers over 70 to undertake a driving assessment. And this would be done in cases where they have real concerns about their patient in terms of cognitive or physical impairment. And I actually think this is a great idea. I only wish it had been in place a long time ago. Trying to persuade an elderly family member that it really is time to stop driving is very, very difficult. And although on an annual form they had to get the doctor to sign whether they're fit to drive, the doctor would just sign it off. There was no real power for them to get the driving licence taken off someone who was a danger to themselves and others. So this could be a very good idea. Now, another horror which we've talked about, we reported on this channel recently, is the fuel duty increase. And just as fuel reaches its lowest price for years, the Grim Reevester is considering a hike in fuel duty. And of course, this includes heating oil. And with no winter fuel payment to help, pensioners are again carrying the heaviest burden. The government has, in my opinion, helped to create their own fuel duty black hole by pushing electric vehicles on everyone, so the proceeds from fuel duty are dwindling. And as we reported recently, the apparition, or the ghostly apparition maybe I should say, of pay per mile could materialise, and I know from the thousands of comments that we've received how well that move would go down with our viewers. Not. Now there's another issue that they may well look at, and that's social housing rents. There's a rumour suggesting that that will be increased. Now don't forget Starmer's words that those with the broadest shoulders should carry the heaviest burden. Well, the Financial Times has reported that the Grim Reevester, in another demonstration of duplicity, intends to attack the poorest in society by increasing the annual rents on social housing. This will be by the Consumer Price Index plus an additional 1%. So it's another slap in the face for the poorest in society and for pensioners. And finally, changes to the PIP eligibility. Now, it's rumoured that the Grim Reevester will continue with the Tories' plans to restrict personal independence payments for people who need extra help with long-term illnesses or disability. They intend to alter the eligibility requirements and assessments because it's not currently means tested. Well, I'll leave you to discuss that in the comments. If you've got any concerns about your pensions after the Grim Reevester has revealed her plans to wreck your finances, then please do seek professional financial advice, and preferably from a company or person specialising in pensions. Keir Starmer, and incidentally, you might notice I never call him Sir Keir Starmer, and nor will I ever acknowledge that title with him, as he's done a little to deserve it in my opinion. Starmer has admitted the fiscal plan is going to be painful. Well, Reeves, however, says that does not mean there'll be a return to austerity, though she has said they will have to make hard but fair choices. So the winter fuel payment debacle is fair, is it? As always, I know you're going to have plenty to say about all this. Do leave your comments below. We always read them. And we only have a few days to wait to find out what's in the budget. Let's hope it won't be too painful. Our next edition will be after the budget. So until then, thanks for joining us. Have a happy Halloween. Thanks for subscribing. And it's bye for now.